My background is not politics, but it's architecture. Small business owner. I was a president and senior partner with the state's largest architecture firm. I worked for them for 23 years and still love architecture to this day, but really felt called to step into things that work well to fix the complex problems that we face in Raleigh and across North Carolina today. And so those skills and abilities have been useful in our first year here. But I have a wife that I've been married to now for 22 years, and we have a son that is in college, and we have an 18-year-old daughter and another son that is 14 and another daughter that's 8. So stay busy with the kids and spend as much time as I can with them when I'm not doing stuff for the state.
Well, let's go back to something that you said. All those years as an architect, you had no public office experience, but you got that call. What was that call?
Well, I think a lot of people that, certainly probably most people that are in political office feel called to step up and do something to address the problems that they see in government, whether that's at the local, state, or federal level. There's, I believe, a great leadership gap in government across the board. One of my heroes is Ronald Reagan, and I kind of look back to the days of Ronald Reagan and say, I wish we had that kind of leader leading our country today, and I hope there's more in the future. So I think lots of people will step up and run because they see the need to fill a leadership gap. Some of them run for other reasons, but there is a lot to get done here in North Carolina. A lot of things that I felt were going in the wrong direction a few years ago, and didn't want to sit on the sidelines and talk about it or complain about it. I wanted to step up and actually do my part. A lot of people that are working really hard. There's a lot of great things going on in Raleigh. A lot of things you won't read about in the newspapers or see on TV, but there's a lot of work that has been done over the past year, and a lot of that is behind the scenes. A lot of it's types of things that doesn't build any political capital, but they're the things that need to be done to fix the government. And those are the kinds of things that the governor and team of secretaries have been working on for a year, and as well as the types of things that the General Assembly of the legislature has continued.
So tell us how your first year has been, because you've just completed that. It's certainly been a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it's been a fun roller coaster ride. I like roller coasters, so this one has been fun, and we're enjoying it all the way. But there was a steep learning curve. I would say for the first few months, I had to get sworn in, and the next day I was the president of the Senate. So, I was leading the Senate and presiding over that body, and I had to do a lot of work to get up to speed on that. And then, just learning your other duties. Lieutenant Governor sits by Constitution on the State Board of Education. You probably are well aware of all the challenges we face in the education spectrum in our state and around the world. And so that's a big task, a lot of information to be gathered, a lot of leadership that's needed there. I also sit on the State Board of Community Colleges, the North Carolina Board of Economic Development, the Military Affairs Commission. I'm chair of the Energy Policy Council. I chair what's called the E-Learning Commission. I'm chairman of the Digital Technology Commission under the State Board of Education. So a lot of things going on there. You can sit in board meetings and committee meetings all the time if you chose to, but we do that, and then we go out on the road and we spread the message of what's going on, and we try to listen to the people as to what's important to them and what they see needs to be done to our state, and bring that message back to Raleigh.
Well, you're not kidding. There's so much more going on behind the curtains than most people even realize.
Yeah, there really is, and I could go through agency by agency and tell you how each of the governor's agencies are really transforming into customer service mindsets to, say that this absolutely is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And if you're going to say that, then you need to have a customer service mindset about how you do your business, and that's really changing pretty rapidly here. But there's a lot of other things that have just been swept under the rug for years in Raleigh, and we're trying to get those things fixed as well so government can run as efficiently as possible.
And you're running it like a business, which is important to run it efficiently versus running it as a political entity. And that's just very apparent these days.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad you said that. All the people that are at the secretary level, they're all business folks. They come from a business world. They left behind their jobs and their businesses that were doing very well to come serve the people of North Carolina. So they're making great sacrifices to do that. And they are bringing that business-minded approach of efficiency. How do we run this? This is your money, the taxpayers' money. The people that are listening to the show, the money that runs government comes out of their pockets. And we need to make sure that we are good stewards of every bit of that, while we are making sure that the government is performing the tasks that government is supposed to be performing. It's a limited government, but there are still very specific tasks that are important to perform. And a lot of good things came through the legislature as well. The legislature, we passed the most aggressive tax reform in the country this past session. We went from 44th in the nation to 17th in the nation in business tax climate. That's a huge leap for our state. All of your listeners out there now that pay personal income tax are going to have more money in their pocket this year than they had last year through a $1.5 billion tax cut. That's important. The death tax was eliminated in North Carolina as well. There were reforms to unemployment insurance, having to pay off $2.5 billion of debt there that we had to the federal government, and to be able to make sure that safety net is in place for generations to come for people that need it. There was reform to our election laws through photo voter ID. 82% of North Carolinians, Carol said that they believe that we should have some kind of photo identification when we go to the polls. There was reform, continued reform to Medicaid and those types of things too. So it's just regulatory reform. It goes on and on and on. But a lot of activity was happening over this last session, and a lot of really good things.
So let's talk about Dan Forest, the guy. When you're not heading up the Senate and all the other committees that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, what do you do to relax and just enjoy yourself in this beautiful state?
Well, there's not a lot of time for that, believe it or not.
I do believe it.
Job plus, and start early in the morning, you end late at night most nights, so you get to go home and go to bed and do it again in the morning. But any bit of extra time I do have, if I get it on the weekends or I get it in the evenings, I want to spend it with my wife and kid. We enjoy all kinds of things. I'll play golf if I have time to play golf. We like hiking, so we kind of take the family out and go hiking. We're a road trip family, so we will get in the car and just go somewhere, and we enjoy doing that. It can be anything, just hanging out at home and watching movies, but there's not a ton of it in the political world. I think that's one thing that certainly your listeners probably need to know, one about their representatives or their senators, the people that serve them. They generally work pretty hard, and they work long hours, and they generally do it for very little pay and pretty selflessly as well. You're getting beat up all the time but by folks who don't always appreciate what you're doing or not sharing the truth about what you're doing. You have to have some thick skin, and you have to just realize that what you're doing is the right thing, and keep charging forward, and just keep your head down and keep doing the right stuff, and that will all be worth it in the end. While they're here, it's a full-time job. When they're in Raleigh, we're in the long session, and that long session is lasting 7 or 8 months, and they are in Raleigh from Monday evening until Thursday afternoon. Generally, they're leaving their businesses behind, they're leaving their families behind, and they're coming here to do the people's business. And let me tell you, while they're here, they work hard. They're in committee meetings, they're working on bills, they're doing the work of the people, and it's a tough task. And like you said, they're not getting paid much to do it, so they're certainly doing it for the right reasons.
One last question, and then I'll let you go. Did you have a relationship with Governor McCrory prior to the elections? Were you both familiar with one another and your goals?
Well, yeah, we were familiar. I wouldn't say we had much of a relationship just because I was in Raleigh and he was in Charlotte. But while he was on the city council in Charlotte, my mother was mayor of Charlotte, so I know him going way back, a long, long time ago, and so I've known him through the years. But we've developed a much tighter relationship since we've been here in Raleigh, so that continues to get better with time. And, everybody's got their own agendas, and they're working hard to kind of push forward and doing their thing. And we've had a lot more time over the past few months to come together and to strategize a little bit more and talk a little bit more about vision and kind of future stuff. A lot of the foundational work that's been done over the past year by the governor and his staff and his secretaries has really focused on fixing the problems of government. And like I said, those are not things that win you a lot of political capital. They're not the things that make headlines. They're not the things that people talk about around the dinner table at night. But they're foundational to the structure of government, and it's important that we get that foundation right before we move forward. And now we're finally getting to that place where we can start crafting an envisioned future for the state with a long-term vision for North Carolina. And that's more of the stuff that people like to hear, and that's more of the stuff that people are interested in. And so I think the next year will be even very different than the past one. We are honored to be able to serve you from here in Raleigh. It goes for your listeners as well. If there's any needs that they have from the Lieutenant Governor's office, please have them look us up and give us a call, and we'll be glad to talk to them.